Hey everybody, welcome back to Brand New Vegan. I'm doing another Everyday Vegan Story interview, this time with my good friend, Karin Alexis. Hi, Karin.
Hi, Chuck.
So tell me, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? That kind of thing.
I am, let's see, I am Karin Alexis. I live in New York City, have lived here for, I don't know, 40 some years at this point. And I grew up actually in Europe and in Iowa, of all places, Kentucky and Iowa. But I moved here about 40 some years ago, and it's home. I'm married. My husband is an actor. And we have raised our son here in New York City, which was a lot of people think would be dreadful, but it was quite wonderful. And in spite of all the challenges, we still love New York.
Well, good. So how long have you been vegan? Or are you plant-based? Are you plant-based for your health or are you vegan for the animals? Or both?
Well, I would say plant based for health, although I'm perfectly happy to be kind to animals as well. That was sort of a secondary bonus, I would say. My initial reason for becoming plant based was for health purposes. In my case, I always thought I was healthy. Ate a fairly um, healthy, more Mediterranean type of diet. Even though we always battled with weight a little bit, we felt we were healthy. We weren't on medications, didn't have any chronic illnesses or anything of that sort. So, my wake up call came in 2010. I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was a huge shock to me because I had had 10 totally normal mammograms 10 years in a row and ended up with a breast cancer diagnosis. And when that happened, it just it propelled me, and it would anybody, into huge decisions. And in my case, an enormous amount of research, because I was quite perplexed why I would get cancer. I didn't have any history of, family history of cancer. We felt we ate very healthy, not a lot of, junk food or anything of that sort. So I kept asking myself, what is it in my body that is making it a terrain that cancer would want to grow in? And that led me to watching a brand new documentary which had just come out, which was Forks Over Knives. And I was dumbfounded, quite honestly, that I had never heard I had been vegetarian in the 60s, and so I had done that more for animals, but it wasn't, I would not say, a healthy diet. I mean, probably it was less healthy than Mediterranean because I ate so much cheese and dairy and so on to offset meat consumption. But nobody had told me anything about what I learned to be whole food plant-based eating. That was a term I actually had to look up the acronym. I didn't understand what it stood for. You know, WFP, all of that. So when we watched, my husband was enormously supportive of anything that I needed to do when I was going through breast cancer treatment. We watched the documentary together, and he turned off the remote and immediately said, "That's it. No more meat or dairy for me," which shocked me because he's a 6'4" big guy, meat and potatoes, always, wanted that kind of food. So before I even said, "Hey, this makes sense," he said to me it made sense for him, which was a huge gift because we launched into it immediately together. We started, trying to figure out what to do, clearing out things out of our cabinets, out of our refrigerator, and then of course trying to figure out what do we eat now. And that led me to a lot of different wonderful vegan chefs like you that helped us, because I would say a big part of the success that we have had now for, I guess it's 13 years eating this way, and raising a child this way, I would say, who he loves this way of eating. He comes home and looks forward to, whole food, plant-based meals. So his comfort foods are the things he grew up with, which are healthy. But a big part of that success is that we learned to cook with new methods and with different ingredients. But I feel that, I always love to cook, but I think that we cook better than we ever have. We eat better than we ever have in this way.
Wow. How long ago was that? 10 years ago? 2010. Okay. So since then, what's the greatest benefit you've seen because of the way you switched eating?
I would say, our health is great. My husband, at one time, he had borderline high cholesterol and high blood pressure. They wanted him on medication, and that was a big motivating factor for him to eat this way. And he has never, ever had. He goes for a yearly physical only because I force him, and his doctor always says, "I wish all my patients were as healthy as you." He's, exactly. My husband's 75. He's on no medications whatsoever. He looks much younger than that. He's, energetic and sharp. And, I just, a lot of it has to be the diet that we're on,
Did it help your breast cancer diagnosis at all? Or did you still go traditional?
I did go traditional, and I would say that that's, a personal choice. I think once cancer sets up in your body, I know a lot of people are advocates of natural only, but that really has to be a decision made with many, many different factors, and especially looking at your pathology and whatever the cancer is. So I would never tell anybody to do cancer treatment in any certain way. That's got to be personal. Having said that, when I was diagnosed, I was on a support forum, and I became very, very close friends with 12 women who were all going through chemo at the same time. And I was as well. And we glommed onto each other, and we decided to have yearly reunions. And so we went all over the country for 1 week every year, and we were together. So out of those 12 women, there's only 4 of us left. So I didn't choose the harshest treatments that some of them did. So I won't say it, but my gut feeling is that at the least, the whole food plant-based diet that I've been following all these years is anti-inflammatory and has allowed my body not to have a recurrence of cancer. So I certainly can't, it doesn't hurt to set your body up in a much healthier fashion to fight off any kind of problem. And my husband's always telling everybody, he says, I haven't had a cold in 13 years. He never gets sick. None of us, we don't even get colds anymore. And yeah, and I really do think that has to do with the diet.
I tell people all the time, if they have just received a diagnosis of diabetes or cancer or whatever, this diet that we all do, this whole food plant-based diet, it may not cure you. It may not reverse it, but what can it hurt to try? You might be surprised.
I totally agree. It's just another tool, and it's the tool that tips the scale in your favor, So I really do. I early on, I was pretty gung ho, and I was a bit proselytizing about this way of eating. And most people, as you probably have experienced, don't want to hear about it. And so now I wait for invitations to talk about it. If somebody wants to know about it. Having said that, I invite people over. I cook the way I cook. I don't do anything different for them. I cook our favorite foods. I take my favorite casserole to potlucks, and I don't tell anybody that it's vegan. I don't tell anybody that it's whole plant. And very often, it totally disappears at potlucks, and very often people will ask for the recipes and are astonished because they say, I'd actually eat this. It's like, well, do you think I eat lousy food every day? I just don't, you know? So, yeah. So it's, I have seen the change in the world. It's still a challenge going out to restaurants, even vegan restaurants, I would say, and I live in New York City. There are not that many, but we have quite a few, and they still believe, and perhaps they're true, perhaps it's correct, that they have to do a lot of comfort food, and they're doing the fake meats and the fried things and so on, which is not exactly healthy. So, but there's more and more choice. So I'm really happy about that, because 13 years ago, really there wasn't a lot of choice, at all.
No, 2008 is when I started, and the vegan cheese we had back then was just horrible. It was horrible. So, how hard or how easy was it for you? And you say your husband joined at the same time. How hard was it to make the switch?
I think initially we were a little bit bumpy just because we didn't know what to eat. And I would say, if I had any advice to anybody, I think you advocate this. And I mean, I know some of the other chefs and so on, like maybe Chef AJ and different people, is, try to, it doesn't have to be complicated. You and I grew up with, 3 square meals a day, and they had to have meat and potatoes and vegetable on every plate. And now I joke that sometimes I eat like when I was in college, which was just, I'd open the fridge and say, there's some lentil soup there. That's fine for dinner. And I would just have a little lentil soup for dinner. It doesn't have to be these huge, meals every time. And that, I think and if I get hungry, then I go eat something else, on top of it. But it doesn't have to be like a full on meal 3 times a day. And I find that that's sort of freeing, that I don't have to I mean, we do set the table and have dinner every night, but it doesn't have to be a newly cooked fresh meal. We can very often just make a nice salad, and there's a baked potato and some of your cheese sauce, and we're good to go, and a fruit salad for dessert. We're fine. Um, I know a lot of people would probably think that that's bizarre, but I think that all of us have come to find that I'm not hungry. I'm healthy, and I don't need to have huge meals 3 times a day. As a matter of fact, I think that's why a lot of people, after they eat, they end up falling asleep, because it's like having Thanksgiving dinner at your relative's house, where you just collapse afterwards and are comatose. It's just not, your body is talking to you and saying, why'd you feed me so much?
I remember working the night shift on Thanksgiving. We worked a lot of holidays, and they would cater Thanksgiving dinner for us. And the supervisors were worried about me. What are you going to eat, Chuck? Don't worry about me. I'll eat some of the sides. I don't have to eat the turkey. I'll be fine. Don't worry about it. You do your thing and I'll do mine. And my friends and my coworkers would stuff themselves with all of the fixings, lots of turkey. And, I would pick around and have a little green bean casserole, maybe a little mashed potato, a roll or something. I was fine. An hour later, in the factory at work, they're falling asleep, and I'm still as energetic as ever. And I wanted to laugh at them and say, yeah, what's the matter, guys?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's funny how that is.
Yeah. So when you made the switch, your family and friends at the time, did they support you?
Well, my husband did, and that was the most important thing. And my kid was 10 at the time, so he had to come along for the ride if he wanted to eat. So, so he did. But I did find substitutions that, I am not by any means a perfect 150% compliant, whole food, plant-based, clean eater. Believe me, I will never be perfect at anything in life. I have exceptions to most all rules, but And that's my choice, that I don't want to be, I don't want to, and I don't have to be so rigid. I do realize some people need to be rigid. I mean, I think that some people who have um, overeating disorders, that they have triggers, and they are not, if they have one little bite of something, they're off and away. For me, I can, I allow myself, which actually I think I heard from Dr. Klaper or Dr. Goldhammer. I was at TrueNorth at one point, and they said if you do 90% right 90% of the time, you're good. And I mean, I never eat meat or I never eat dairy, but occasionally, if I'm in a restaurant, I will have a nice salad that has some dressing that has oil in it or something like that. With my son, because he was a kid, I would find things that were kid friendly for him. His favorite food on the planet was, and like a lot of people, was bacon. Okay. So when we said, no, we're not going to eat bacon anymore, the kid he was really not happy. So I found tempeh bacon, and I would make him that. And that tasted like enough like bacon that he was fine with it. And we still use that now, in different, pastas or something like that. Occasionally we'll have that. So I think that and I think this is your specialty. I think that it's your talent is replicating comfort food from your childhood. I mean, even like junky, weird, like, whatever that bacon mushroom soup thing was that was wonderful, horrible, that we were growing up with. And I've made your version of it with the shiitake bacon. It's great. It just gives us that taste memory, if you will, that I think is part of life. I think that those are enjoyable moments to remember, being with your family, eating certain things, celebrating things with them with food. So I still allow for those things. I just try to do it in a little healthier way.
I tell people, like my cheese sauce, it's not going to taste like cheese if you just had a big hunk of cheddar yesterday or blue cheese or whatever. But your taste buds will change, and they will. It takes time, but they definitely change. And now my cheese sauce to me, it's how I remember cheese tasting. It may not taste exactly like it. It's how I remember it tasting. And it's close enough. That's close enough.
I really do think that it'd be interesting, like to actually do a scientific taste testing study or something. But I believe, and I think you've experienced it as well, that when you and I know that even people say it takes 21 days to change a habit. And I tell people, if you're trying to do this, just try to commit as best you can for 21 days, because within that 21 days, if you can make it 21 days, you've got this. Your taste buds will change. You will taste food differently. You will enjoy the taste of foods in a different manner. So a lot of people give up before they give that, I think, neural change switch over a chance, to really click in.
You saw my wife's blood pressure this morning in the live stream. We have a support group, and me and Karin and a bunch of my friends, we have a live stream every morning. And I shared with them just 1 month ago, you were saying 21 days. 1 month ago, my wife's blood pressure was 170 over 91. And this morning, it was 92 over 59. That's what can happen in just 1 month.
Absolutely. Well, your wife has been really pretty disciplined and determined, and I understand, because that's scary. But I give her all credit, because a lot of people would have been scared and would have immediately gone to the doctor and said, give me pills, do something immediately now, because whatever. But I do think that people have to, I would like for people to give their own bodies the chance to heal or get better on their own. I mean, blood pressure is just a symptom of something, Type 2 diabetes is really just a symptom of your body that's out of whack. And if you can just give your body a chance to get back to balance, with, whether it's a balanced weight and there's a lot of factors. There's stress, there's all kinds of different things that play in. But if you can somehow give your body a chance, it will heal. It will heal. It may not heal 100%. Some people do need some medication here and there, but boy, I think 90% of medication probably could be eliminated. That's my guess. I used to work in the medical field, and it's funny because we've come full circle. I worked in a resident training program with a lot of brand new doctors who were constantly trying to do crazy things that we had to stop them from doing, but experimenting on different incisions and crazy stuff. But there was a very, very wise older country doctor, who was the head supervisor of the program. And Dr. Widmer did crazy things, fun, crazy things, but he would come into the lab where I was working and he would say, "I'm going to tell you a secret, but don't tell anybody." And I'd say, "Okay, Dr. Widmer, what?" He'd say, 90% of what walks in this office would get better if people would just give it time. And that was a doctor talking. And I agree. And now I think even more so,
So what's one thing you wish the non-vegan types would understand about why we do what we do, why we eat this way? You didn't have any people that did not support you, but if you did, what would you say to them?
Well, I did actually have people who would battle me. We have a place in the country, and at one point along my journey, the only thing I really missed, which you probably hear this all the time, is cheese. And as you said yourself, the vegan cheese out there was just dreadful. I mean, it was just not even worth eating. It was just awful. So I spent an entire summer experimenting and coming up with vegan cheese recipes. And if I do say so myself, they were fabulous. They were not oil-free. They did have some coconut oil in them. But I decided, because I was near a very small country farmer's market, to see if I could sell them. And I created a monster. I sold so much vegan cheese in 2 different summers. I actually created a business, which, I mean, I couldn't believe how much cheese I was selling. And it was, I would say, I sold 90% to non-vegans. When I go back there now, they're still asking me. They're calling me saying, "Can you make me some?" I mean, I had black truffle brie. I had all kinds of good stuff. But, and I considered doing it as a business, but I think my mind came to its senses, realizing that I was creating a monster for me to handle more than anything else. But while I was at the farmer's market, which was every Saturday, and I had a big sign that said vegan cheese, so they knew it, even though it looked like real cheese. And I had taste testing. And it was really funny because people would come up and they would kind of look at it, but not touch. Like and I'd say, "Try it. It's not going to kill you, And they'd go, "Yeah, but it's vegan." And I'd go, "Oh, go on. You're a big guy. Try it." So they'd try it and they'd go,
"He likes it. Hey, Mikey."
"It's good. Doesn't taste like cheese, but it tastes good." And I'd say, "Okay, that's a start." But some men in particular it was almost like it was poison. They were terrified to even go near it. And you're saying people who were not supportive, people would come up and they say, "Well, you really need meat to be healthy." And as you know, I like to talk and I have a mouth, and I'd go, "No, actually, you don't need meat to be healthy." And they go, yeah, you really, nutritionally, you can't be healthy without meat. Well, then there's fighting words to me, because I've done the research. I know the science, and I have to speak out on it. I'm not going to just say, "Okay, yeah," I'm not. So I would speak to it. But the vast majority of people, I feel now, are kind of live and let live. But, there were so many non-vegans who were thrilled to eat vegan cheese. And I always say this, even in New York City, I happen to know people who own restaurants, and they are so stubborn. I keep saying to them, it's good business. And they go, yeah, well, if you just ask, we'll make you something vegan. I'm like, I don't want to ask. I want to come in and order off the menu. Okay. I don't want to be whatever that movie was, Five Easy Pieces, hold the bacon, hold the mayonnaise, hold the, and end up with a piece of bread and lettuce on it. I just don't. I want to dine and have a choice. And I keep telling them there are so many carnivores who eat vegan food. So if you have a beautiful quinoa salad, some guy might order that as a side. But if you have only meat options, your vegan or vegetarians can't order them. So your business model would make more sense because you can sell non-meat things to all of the audience, but you can sell only meat to only meat people. So they're starting to hear me a little bit. I think part of the problem, and I do know, I have a friend who owned a beautiful restaurant. She still manages another great restaurant, and I have another guy who owns a restaurant. A lot of the resistance are the old chefs in the kitchen, not the owners. But when you have guys who've been working in the kitchen in front of a grill for 20 years doing it their way, and you come in and say, give me something without meat, they just roll their eyes. They're like, no, nobody wants that, So I think we're getting there. I mean, New York City has, we've got some pretty special vegan restaurants. There's one guy that has like 3 different ones. He has, actually, it's called Beyond Sushi. It's completely vegan, and it's the most gorgeous sushi you've ever seen in your life. And there's no animal products in it whatsoever. And he makes everything from scratch. He makes, like, I don't know, some kind of crab, something or other out of tapioca and konjac, I think it is. But it's like crab, So I think there's a lot of real innovators out there, and I think that will go a long ways. I'm still waiting for the vegan Food Network chef. We don't even have a vegetarian, much less a vegan Food Network celebrity.
So what used to be your favorite food?
I like pretty much everything, but favorite foods, I would say, what do I miss? And I would say tiramisu would be right up there. That was something that I loved. I mean, I would say tiramisu would be my number one. Creme brulee, tiramisu. And I'm not even that big a dessert person, but I really, really love those. But your taste buds do change. I mean, a lot of that's occasionally, like, I'll go out and a friend will order it now and I'll have a little taste of it and it's almost too much. I mean, it's almost too sweet, too rich, it doesn't thrill me like it used to.
So what's your favorite food now?
It's really funny because now I kind of like simple foods more. I don't gravitate towards, I would say now, like I make like a potato casserole kind of thing, which it's almost like scalloped potatoes, but more garlic and not creamy. I would say that would be up there. Potatoes rank pretty high on my favorite list these days, I think.
Okay. What's one tip you would have for anybody considering changing their diet? To all those people who are on the fence about joining the whole food plant-based movement or becoming a vegan, what's one tip you'd have for them?
I would say, we're all of us our expectations, I think, are of perfection. And I would say, dip your toe in, give yourself, if you can give yourself 3 weeks, great. If not, give yourself 1 week and just say that you'll try it as best you can for a week. And if you fall off the wagon, we all do, don't just throw in the towel and say, oh, I can't do this. And I do this on a regular basis now. I mean, I'm still trying to eat and I've only recently totally committed to doing no oil. So if I go out with friends to a restaurant, inevitably there's oil on stuff. And if I eat some of it, I say, okay, it's one meal. And the next morning I just get back into the saddle and try to eat clean. But our society is terrible about the all or nothing kind of mandate. It's like you have to either do it 100% or not at all. And that's not true. I mean, if I would prefer if people do meatless Mondays and then eat the rest of the food, if that's what they can do, fine. Maybe build on that. Maybe, go a whole week without meat and don't give up your dairy, and then maybe try to give up the dairy. There's so many ways to do this. And I don't think there's any one path. So I would just say, if you're going to do it as almost use yourself as a guinea pig, as an experiment, and note how you feel before you start, and then be very aware of the changes. Because for my husband, for example, he used to eat Tums like they were candy because he had, acid reflux or GERD or I don't know what. I mean, it was just his way of life. He always was eating a Tums for some reason. We haven't even had Tums in the house in 10 years, I don't think. There's just, so there's little things that if you pay attention, that you'll notice that, you feel better. Your allergies might be better. Your skin might be better. Your digestion definitely will be better. I can almost guarantee that. So, and if you fall off the wagon, circle back and try it again. Don't say that it's not for you, But I think that now, especially with all of the success stories, like on, Forks Over Knives, the people who've lost enormous amounts of weight and have really regained their lives, people who were debilitated, couldn't walk, couldn't do anything, couldn't work, and are living a full, healthy life for the first time, really, in their lives. It's not a matter, this is not a fad. This is a lifestyle, and it's here to stay if people choose it, I would say the other thing for me, which was important, and I'll make a suggestion for you on this, was you really do need to learn to cook, It doesn't have to be fancy schmancy. It can be very simple cooking, but I would say I live in New York where nobody cooks. Okay. I mean, somebody did a study recently, and I think it was something like 80% of ovens have never been turned on in New York City, which doesn't surprise me because I know a lot of people that all they do is go out and eat. But I would say simple cooking, basic cooking, learning how to do a few things with the Instapot, that kind of thing, really sets you up for success. I would say, and this is a suggestion for you, I would love to have a challenge to teach men to cook, because my husband used to cook a little bit, but for some reason, when we became whole food, plant-based, and I took over the kitchen and started cooking, he defaulted to me. And now it's like, you cook so much better. So, having said that, he cleans, he shops, and he does all the shopping, and he does all the cleaning. So he's not contributing. But I worry about him if something happens to me, Chuck. I mean, what's he going to eat? He's going to go up and, I don't know, go to the deli and get some quinoa or something. But my son also, I'm telling him, you've got to learn to cook. If you want to be healthy, you have to learn at least basic cooking skills. But I think that you could make it actually fun. You could do like a husband's, cooking challenge, and teach them how to make one dish and just get them going on it, because wouldn't that be nice if I came home and dinner was ready for me for once?
Okay. I'll consider that. So I got one more question for you, Karin. Could you ever go back?
No. never. No, as a matter of fact, I've actually thought about that. It's like, okay, let's say the world started to end and there was nothing to eat, my food. And all I could do was eat, I don't know, some meat that somebody offered me. And I guess if it was a matter of survival, you'd do whatever you'd have to do, but it would have to be pretty drastic for me to start eating meat and dairy again. It really would be. I just think I'm 67. I feel better than when I was in my 50s, no doubt about it. I'm I don't know, 40 pounds thinner. I could still lose some weight, but I battled weight forever. I went up, I went down, I went up, I went down, and now I rarely even step on a scale. I mean, I'm not obsessed about it. I eat when I'm hungry. I eat when I feel like it. And my body is sort of taking care of balancing things out on its own, which is a great relief because I know a lot of women in particular, and I would imagine men as well, who spend their entire lives trying to lose weight. I've always said, what a waste of time that is, instead of doing something else, instead of getting on with your life, to make that your life's mission to lose the weight. There's better, more important things to spend your life on.
A trip I went on to the Remedy Food Conference here in Oregon on the Columbia River Gorge 2-3 years ago, before COVID. All the big famous plant-based stocks were there. McDougall, all the guys, Goldhammer a while. They fed us 3 meals a day for the 3 or 4 days that we were there. And I was so afraid that somebody would catch me going down to the snack bar, the restaurant or something. So when I sat down at a meal, even though it was all plant-based, whole food, no oil, very tasty, I made sure I ate. I ate a lot. I stuffed myself so I wouldn't get hungry. And I came back 4 days later and I had lost 5 pounds. So it's the food. It's the food.
It really is. And I also have a theory about that because I used to experience that even before I was whole food. When I'd go on vacation, I would give myself permission to just eat anything I wanted on vacation. And I would. And inevitably, I would come back thinner. And I think a lot of that has also to do with relaxing and eating, not just stuffing and eating on the go the way so many people do. I mean, another statistic which I find tragic is that something like 75% of kids eat dinner in a car because they're always running to soccer or they're running to music or something. So, mom drives through a drive-through and grabs them a hamburger. They eat dinner in cars majority of time because they're overscheduled, possibly. The family dinner of just sitting down, relaxing, talking, arguing, whatever it is, and eating together is not a normal thing in people's lives anymore. And I think that that's also a big problem. I mean, you have to be in a relaxed state and eating in order to have it not turn into indigestion and overweight and everything else. So lifestyle definitely plays a big part of it. I mean, I'm still working on, trying to get more exercise and that kind of thing. But I do not allow myself to be like eating on the street, running from place to place. I make sure that I have time to sit down, relax for a few minutes and have a meal. But I don't think that's most people's norm.
Well, thank you so much, Karin. This has been very fun, very entertaining, very educational. You have any last words?
No, I just think it's great. I think that your group is great. I think that I'm happy that you've started the community group. It has a different feel than your normal Facebook page. I'm on both of them. They just have a different kind of feel to them. But I love your recipes. You've taught me a lot of different things that I have yet to experiment with, like what is it? Gochujara? Gochu something or other. I'm about to launch in to see what that's about.
Korean spices.
Yeah, but I think it's just such a nice, kind group, and you are the leader who I think keeps that feeling going. There's a lot of groups where it's a little heavy-handed. It's a little too, you have to do this or else you'll never do that. If you don't give up oil, you're going to never get your weight off. But you have a very supportive personality, and I think it's very encouraging for a lot of people. So it's a pleasure to be around you and also the people who have become part of your group.
Well, thank you. We've all been there. We know what it's like. And I try to make the kind of groups that I would want to be in, non-judgmental. Do the best you can. We're here to support you if you goof up. And like you said, don't beat yourself up. Just get back on board tomorrow. It's a new day. Anything's possible. So thank you. I appreciate that. So there you have it, another everyday vegan story. If you like these types of interviews, please consider subscribing, hit that like button, and ring that noti bell so you get notified when the next video come out. And maybe you have your own story. If you'd like to share how this way of eating has helped you, please leave me a comment down below. I'll be glad to interview you. It only takes one person to see it who's ready at that moment to make a difference, and you could possibly help somebody change your life. So with that, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. This is Chuck from Brand New Vegan. Hope you enjoy.